Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to everyone over on the Pacific or Mountain Time. My name is Carlie. Welcome to my channel, Consciousness with Carlie. We are going to have Ryan on today, and Ryan and I have such a beautiful, divine, angelic connection, and we are absolutely so excited to get to share that connection with you today and have a beautiful, conscious conversation. So let's bring him on.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me clearly? Yeah, I'll take my earpods out. Is that better?
Yeah. See, that's why I can't use a mic at all on my lives or use earbuds because it always sounds so weird once we go live. So I just don't use anything.
It's all good. My phone, I've dropped my phone a million times, and about 20 years ago, I put a Q-tip in my ear, so I've distorted my whole hearing process, and so the earbuds help me kind of tune in, but it haven't been working, so this is perfect. Either way.
Interesting. I just had that conversation with my husband about not being able to hear. And when I was a touring artist and studio artist, I would do live band practices in a small room, and it distorted my hearing so bad that I lost my hearing. So it's interesting you brought that up. Let's just key point that just in case it comes in,
Can I
right?
can I say something that also just came up that sounds, I mean, what's been coming up for me since this bombardment of light that we've been receiving the last few days, and lots is being exposed, I guess, whatever you want to call
Mm-hmm.
it, the distortions and everything's from within. But what I believed my journey was all about just totally took the left turn that was kind of being shown to me since the beginning of August. And I just said, be open to receiving from the universe coming out of left field. And a woman wrote me the other day and said something about her singing and to step into your greatest fear because that's your path. And since I was little, my greatest fear was singing. But I've loved singing my whole life. But I am deathly afraid to sing in front of people. And I thought, this is so crazy. Message after message after message after message was about singing and singing my song and whatever that looked like. And I kind of got into writing, I don't know, a year ago. I'd been kind of told to write. And so I started writing poetry and this morning a friend of mine wrote, oh, actually our friend Nicole, she said, there's an AI music generator, and it can help you kind of bridge your writing into music, and you can kind of get an understanding of maybe how to put vocals to it. And so I did it this morning, and I mean, beyond the other day when I cried like crazy the other morning from some other stuff, but my inner child, I cried this morning with a huge smile on my face, and it just kind of blew me away, this process and how it's all unfolding, and just being open to what's needing to come out through us. And now hearing you talk about being a vocal artist and a musician for most of your life it's just amazing, the synchronicities when you're really stepping into who you are and what you're meant to do here, and the universe is just kind of showing you these beautiful signs over and over and over again. And so yeah, I'm grateful for you sharing that this morning, and the
Thank
beautiful
you.
reflection that you are today.
Thank you. You as well. Yeah, that's something I've tapped into so much as well in the last month is what it really feels like to step into your truth where nothing matters other than expressing that truth. And that's when that fear goes away because that singing, when you step into that, you empower yourself in a way. For you it's a fear, right? And so when you start doing that and you do it publicly, then what else is there, right? If you're doing something that you're afraid of, then what else can touch you? And I
Nothing.
had to do the same thing. Like, I told my story a lot about having to move 2,000 miles away over the summer to go look for an RV that we didn't even have yet. But the whole point of the journey, and I knew this, was to do what I was terrified to do, which was leave my family, leave my home, leave my job, leave comfortability in order to expand and stretch myself, which doesn't feel good, by the way. But the results do. The results do. And it takes time and just being open enough to understand why you would do this to yourself. And then you see it. But it's that stretching, right? Like stretching the nervous system, stretching into that pain, that uncomfortable feeling. It opens up space.
Yeah,
And by you singing and releasing that fear, you just opened up space for your container to carry more of your true energy.
it's a process. I feel that like another message came this morning about how the universe doesn't like to rush anything, so just sit back. And I think that if I look back over the last, if we say 5 years, it was pretty intense for that time. You see that in hindsight, you get to see everything that you've been through. It was truly just building faith in the process. And so as you feel these uncomfortable things that tell you to step forward to do these, and as you do, you build more faith for the next one. And now, I mean, the same thing. My wife and kids just they left and moved across country a month ago, and that was another fear. And crying the other day was about my son dying and a piece of me and being reflected. And so it's constantly going into the deepest fears that I've had. And funny enough, the singing, after all the things that I've been through, is the singing is the last kind of frontier. But I my faith is so strong now. I just follow my heart through the whole process. And I think that we can be an inspiration with our stories and our voice, and just the courage that we have to go through the process. That alone is enough to help the world heal, right? And as we do that, it's our energy that's truly emanating through everybody, and they're feeling a piece of that unconsciously or consciously. And I just think this whole process is really beautiful, and it's really surrendering to it all is the key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and choosing to see it as beautiful, though. Choosing to see it as beautiful is energy, and it's a choice, and it's hard to do sometimes. And I feel like that's what we work with the most. Like for me with clients, I'm trying to help direct them so they can see the depths of hell and the heights of heaven, and bring it all here right now, and understand how much it's serving you on both sides. They're both you,
Yeah.
and bringing it all right here right now. So what would you like to go into today? Like what are you feeling?
I mean, I was just going to add to what you were saying, and I feel like the flow is beautiful. I mean, for what you were saying there in regards to the heaven and hell, I always kind of come back to the body as everything, right? We forget that everything is contained inside of us. I've had processes where I felt the entire universe shake my world like a rocket. My whole body shook, and you get a taste of that power that's inside of you. But even in regards to the idea of heaven and hell, and we have this root chakra at the bottom, this red fiery energy. The sacral orange and the yellow is the fire really of that hell. And being rooted in that space, which is the lower emotions and the lower densities, once we can kind of assimilate and kind of understand what those emotions are in those spaces, we can start to work on those to create some clearance in those blockages that maybe we've encountered, and then start to see ourselves a little bit more clearly and rise that energy upwards into these higher kind of awarenesses, which is those heaven states, right? And even came to me the other day about the angels or angles of light, and as those are inside of us essentially. And so as you move up, you've got the Archangel Gabriel as the throat, and the third eye as Michael, and the crown as the all. And so you're kind of moving through this process of ascension, of lifting that energy up, moving through these aspects of these angels so that you can become the all. And even with food, like we were talking about this the other day in the superfoods talk, and a lot of people will gravitate towards science, which is a slightly distorted understanding of how the world works. But you have food groups But if you break it down to the simplicity of colors and frequency, you start to see and make the connection again to the space inside of the body with the chakras. So if I'm sitting in fear and I'm honest with myself, I need to work with red foods, and those powerful red foods create that vibration that's needed to kind of clear the distortion again. You kind of create balance. Same with the yellow foods all the way up. And so we can really break this down into more simple forms so people can understand it at a deeper level and make the connections quicker. It's the same with getting injuries and healing. You know, we always look, I had a major injury with my shoulder, I had lung cancer, had a major injury on my knee, all these different things that perceivably happened to me. But when I understand energy and I understand that I attracted those events to kind of draw my attention to a place on my body that corresponds with that energy center. So my shoulder connects to my heart space. I didn't pay close enough attention to what it was showing me. So I got a tumor right below my heart chakra. And then it was a deep focus, like, oh, I got to focus on this. And you learn to clear that space. And I didn't go to a doctor, and my lung cancer is gone.
Wow.
I didn't go to a doctor for my shoulder, and I was told that I needed major surgery and would never recover. I literally healed it in 5 minutes of thinking and was at the Worlds 2 months later. So I think we have so much complexity around us from the concept of the ego and the way we've learned to work through life. We needed that experience. But as we kind of allow ourselves to raise in consciousness, we have this ability to keep things simple. We have this ability to really see things for what it is. And it's all about the power of the thought that creates the emotion that either doesn't get expressed and creates a blockage inside of us. And the sooner we can get in touch with that emotion, come back to the moments where that emotion didn't get expressed, boom, we release it. And now we move through life as a superpower. Now we move through life and we understand the power of the thought and the emotions that don't get expressed. And so we can correct things so much easier. And then it really comes down to the most simple understanding that if you can find love in every moment, and love doesn't have to be always soft, but if you find love in every moment, your whole life unfolds so smoothly. And I think it's just getting into that little bit of a battle when you get triggered and you have a difficulty kind of finding love in that moment, because usually the nervous system is a little bit, affected by everything we've been through. So we kind of got to let that heal a little bit and learn to respond to life. But the minute we can respond to life and just focus on love, man, like, to me, this is the biggest message humanity needs to understand, is that just find love in every moment. And the world will then have nothing but the ability to reflect that back to you. And that's how you change your world, right? It's a little bit of a long ramble, but it just, I think it just makes, I feel that from you from the minute I met you. And I felt like that even when we get to these understandings of higher perspectives, whatever that resonates, whatever that means for people, it is the higher perspective. It's when you can be the eagle and zoom out and float above it all and get to a place where love is the answer for all of it.
And then bringing it right here, right now. And that's what I talk about so much lately, because the awareness that the heights of heaven, for me, the heights of my consciousness, the awareness of understanding that it was still pulling me away from my reality, but I needed the perspective, but I have to bring it back here, because if I don't bring it back here, there is no purpose in the gift that I'm given at this moment, with consciousness looking through my eyes as Carlie.
Yeah.
Right? It serves nothing if I can't bring it back here. So I can sit in the heights all day long, but you actually become fragmented again because you're not present. It's these fragments all over of your consciousness everywhere, and you just have to bring it all in and recognize the gift of now. What I'm really interested, go ahead,
No, I was
because
just
mine's gonna
thinking,
be.
just chiming in, but it's perfect, because I feel like on the spiritual journey, it's easy to kind of rise up and get lost in that spiritual aspect. And when you look at the two colors, what are really symbolized as masculine and feminine, what again, it's kind of a perspective, but that red and that blue. And when you think about the blue, where we've been living in that masculine time for so long now, and we've been disconnected from that heart space, right? So people are learning how to connect the two, but then you're floating a little bit. And so when you use that feminine energy and the blue and the red connect in that heart space, the blue and the red turn to what? The blue and the red turn to purple. And that's when you become the all, bringing that into this space, right? You're bringing the oneness, the true all into this space, that God self. So you're on point, right? It's needing to come in and ground it in now, because I think a lot of us have been floating
Right.
up in the sky a little bit.
Absolutely. I guess I'm really interested in your perspective on where you think where you think we're heading as a collective. Like, truthfully, with all the awareness that we know about a possible solar flash, I'm only bringing it up
Sure.
because I want your perspective for me personally
Yeah.
and anyone listening. Where do you feel, as we have been able to embody this angelic frequency within us, where do you think we're going? Do you feel like we are going to have to shift into a higher realm of Earth's experience itself, like we do within our own body? Do you think that we're just creating it within our own Merkaba, where it's just we're creating it, and then so therefore what we project out into the hologram becomes that new Earth to us? Like, what do
I
you
mean, it's
feel?
from what I've been shown. I mean, I've been shown kind of a long process. So sometimes I get ahead of myself and think it's happening sooner than later. But
Mhm.
last December, just talking about that event and knowing that it was coming, 6 months, 4 to 6 months, and from December, and then when it didn't really happen in what I expected. I look in hindsight and see, well, starting in the last eclipse, it started. And so I think we look at it as like a big whammo, but we forget how powerful this light is and what it's been doing to us since the last eclipse, really.
Mhm.
And so we're kind of in it right now. That's my understanding. And that maybe it does give us a little, maybe there is a boost coming up, and there is a bit of a shift. I mean, it has shown like there will be that first contact with that event. But the event, we have to keep remembering, the event isn't happening outside of us, it's happening through us,
Right.
right? So the light is coming, and it is coming into us, but it is us. And so there's a little bit of, I think, of a misunderstanding of waiting for this event to happen. Instead, we have to see that the work that we're doing, allowing this light to expose things and move through it, and kind of heal those problems, or those perceived problems, we are creating the event. And some of the things that were shown to me, in regards to timelines, and I've even had a bit of an awakening in regards to that, because I had a little bit of fear or compassion tied up with each other, thinking about, who was going to go on this other split, right? Who was going to go on this other timeline, and this understanding of negative timeline, and what happens to that. And the other day, in the morning when I was crying, I realized my son and my ex-wife have a shorter contract with me. I couldn't wrap my head around what that meant. And I woke up in the morning and I just started bawling. It was all coming out. And I realized I needed to let him die. And it wasn't in that understanding, that separation. So I wasn't letting him die. He was a reflection of me that needed to die. And it's almost like an initiation in the thought
Ooh, I
process.
got chills.
So I need to experience that, but it
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean that reflection, or that can't change or can't shift with me as I
Right.
shift. So I watched, a friend of mine told me to watch the Deadpool movie the other day with Wolverine, and I'm not a big movie guy, but I was like, okay, I'll watch, see what comes out. And it was really about him going back into the timeline to try to fix things. And he had to work through this process of understanding that you don't go back and try to fix things, but there's a divine timeline they were talking about. And through shifting that divine timeline, everything else shifts, because there's no separation. So I think if we can start to get to a space where we really understand who we are and really step into that full power, that then we can truly bring forward this divine timeline as the all. Like, so all things shift with us. So I don't now hold that belief that this needs to end badly. I think that we're here to do this work to help it all shift.
Right.
And some of the ideas that came were about a new community. I think a lot of us got this download about 6 years ago. And I was given every aspect of how this would work. The term education doesn't fit me anymore, but if you can visualize that, an education center, healing center, community, kind of animals involved in therapy. They showed me how the energy would work, the food system. I mean, it was really beautiful, and it was more in like a circular shape. And what it was based on was energetics. If you think about the city systems right now, we have neighbors that don't want to talk to each other. You know, you live beside your neighbor, and a lot of people don't communicate. We have people shoved in buildings, don't want to communicate because nobody's energy is resonating with each other. It's really hard to do that. But like we're communicating now, I could talk to you for hours because your energy is a match with me. And so if we build this initial community with whatever the term you want to use, light workers, God, however that is, but a group of energetic beings that are a match at a high frequency, we start a community in this circle, not to run from society, which a lot of these communities that are rising up over the last 5 years are to escape society. This is built in a place where it can be added on, it can grow. And so society can also come to be a part, can heal if they're intrigued, if they're curious. It can come and learn from this process. And what you'll notice is that then other communities will then spring up across the world, very similar to what we're doing, but in their own energetic way and in their own energetic max and frequency, because we're all at different levels of awareness right now. And in that, it gives multiple chances for other communities to spring up at different levels of awareness. And it doesn't hold you to that space. It allows you to energetically expand and move on to another community that then resonates with what you're doing. So there's no frustration. You don't get that anger. And I really think that to me is how, you know, these famous light cities that you hear about will then end up springing up, and we'll have these large communities and large light cities, to me, based on energetics. And that seems fluid. That seems interesting. It seems like now there's going to be deep connection at different levels of awareness. And if you think about it on your journey, when you're on Instagram, some people will be a light for you at different periods of time. And as you grow, you can use that person as a light. You put it on a bit of a pedestal. And then at one point, you end up realizing you've expanded past that person and it's no longer resonating. And if you stay for too long, it ends up irritating you. And you maybe get a little bit, judgmental. And then you got to take a step back and you realize, oh, okay, what am I doing here? Okay, I just got to move on from this. So you move on. And then the new person's a new light, right? And I just feel it's the same for the cities. I think if we can just become aware of that and see what's being projected and delivered and magnetized towards us, it all just the flow to me just sounds amazing. I mean, eventually I was showing where my penis falls off and we have light bodies, and I think there's a lot of advancement that will end up taking place. But I don't know what the time frame looks like on that. And again, time doesn't exist, so it's how well we move through this.
Right.
So that's my understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. And we ask to ascend faster. And so we are granted that, right? And then all of a sudden it's like you can't move, you can't breathe, you're dying, you're rebirthing, you're dying, you said that. You're like, I've died 3 times since I talked to you last. I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it. I have died many times this year, and that was my angelic channeling that I did. That was the biggest one that I've ever posted publicly like that, because it was so embodied in truth, and
It was
it
powerful.
felt like new eyes. And what I was saying is, we will learn how to crawl and how to walk and how to speak. And some people get irritated with that and they say, well, fuck that. I've already, done all this work. I'm like, it's different. You won't know until you're in it. It's not like you're, oh my God, in suffering. It's another blank canvas, and you're another new version of yourself. And you have to make sure that you carry that light and are accountable and integral with it, right? We're not granted high frequency energy when we don't know how to be responsible with
Yeah.
it, right? And so that's where the work comes in, because you're like, hey, I have to make sure on a daily basis that I don't get lost in my ego or my identity or any pain. I mean, we have identity and ego, but getting lost in it, that's hard, especially as a female. I'll just bring that up because your hormones really mess with your mental health. So then it's becoming aware of, am I taking the right vitamins? Am I taking iodine? Am I taking the selenium to support the iodine? There's so many aspects to taking care of this avatar. It's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as we do that in this density, we become lighter and lighter and lighter, and it doesn't need as much work anymore because it's become your life. It's become your lifestyle. And I know you and Nicole work on this with the superfoods and everything that you guys are doing, and she's talked to me about it. And that's that stepping stone. That's that frequency that goes into those cells, because you're healing on a cellular level with physical material items that are also in that frequency. Then we can expand, open our container more, bring in more higher frequency energy. And I'm getting at this because I believe we're going to be living for a very long time. And I have
Yes.
felt this way since I was a
Same.
child.
Same.
I never saw death. I was like, wow, I'm going to be here a really long time. Even when I was 3 or 4, I was like, I'm going to be here a long time. But I had to mourn my mom. I used to relive my mom's funeral. She's alive, but I'm saying as a child, I
Yeah.
would experience her death and grieve it because I was preparing myself for whatever is to come, because people are going to choose to stay and people are going to choose to go. I believe we chose to stay and
Yeah.
defy all odds and do our absolute best to see what we can do with this human body as we integrate the truth of the light,
The
the
Dalai
truth.
Lama says to practice. I've always stuck with this, and I think it helped me with my situation on the weekend. But his Dalai Lama practices the death of himself and his loved ones daily, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounds cold, but it's a practice that needs to be taken on, because as you do that, you kind of, when the actual process happens, you can tell yourself, there's no death and all of these different things, but there's a lot of programming in that body, and there's a lot of emotions that'll have to be dealt with, and that understanding has helped me quite a bit. I just want to go back. You were saying about with the responsibility and kind of what we're here to take on with that, with the understanding and the power. And I was shown a long time ago this life of Osiris, and I've shared this story a couple of times, but I feel it's important, um, especially in regards to the mythical illuminated ones. But it showed me Atlantis, when, like, I was standing on the palace, and the meteorites were coming, earthquake in the water, and I'm watching everyone die and perish around me. And I was standing there with just this knowing that I was going to be okay. And I think that was just the level of awareness I was sitting and understanding. And then I was in the water, and the waves were just ginormous, like a mountain. And it was kind of like snapshots of it all. And then I was on the beach in Kemet, and then it was all of a sudden with Isis and standing, and I'm speaking to my people, whatever that means, but I'm speaking to the people, and I'm trying to tell them that they are God. And at that time in Atlantis, when consciousness splitting into that ego consciousness and God's self, so dark magic, white magic, doing for self and doing for others, that consciousness had meandered through all the people, and they couldn't hear the frequency of what I was saying. They couldn't understand it. And all they did was point back to me and say, no, you are God. Because I was in my knowing. And so the powers and what I had, they were in awe.
Yeah.
But the power of that, and of those people, and their projection shifted my awareness, and so I fell to ego consciousness, and so then it made a mess. But the message at the end was that I needed to have the same message now, and that people would be ready to hear it. And it kept coming to me about the pedestal, and how in the past we allowed ourselves to be put on the pedestal, and that created the separation. And the difference is now everything we've gone through has brought us to a point where we won't all, when we get to this flash, and there are, that illumination in a large portion of us, and people are in awe with some of the abilities that are coming through, we won't allow ourselves to be put on the pedestal. We'll be on the pedestal, but we'll be helping everybody up on the pedestal with us. And so I think the message of just, it's been coming up a lot lately, just the simple messages of you are God. And I'll say it a million times, and I'll look in your eyes, that I've been doing this for the past 2 weeks with other, healers and light workers, but like the divine perfection that I can see in you right now, Carlie, is such a beautiful reflection and awareness that I feel inside myself. And sometimes I maybe there's a piece of me that doesn't fully see it. And that also gets reflected back in some of the, the way I see some people kind of shake or quiver. I can feel them thinking, and that's okay, right? It's a work in progress, but it's such a powerful thing to say to somebody when I see the divine perfection in you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It clears it. I believe even all the healing work that I've done, I believe that one statement can actually get to a person, and they can shift in that moment with one thought. Everything releases with that one thought, and even just in that thought that can happen, I'm creating momentum.
Absolutely. And my best friend Becca, she is an angelic. She is me in every form, ego wise, higher self wise, the crazy, the light. She is me. And so exactly what you just said is how me and you feel about each other. When I had my activation remembrance of you, so it's like me and you were talking, and then a couple days later I looked at one of your videos, and it just happened to be the time, right? And I went, I'm not even joking, right? I was like, and I just started bawling. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I see myself. That's my brother, right? And that's what I was saying with Becca, is when me and her connect and see each other, she goes, there I am, right? Because we have to have that mirror of I call it seraphim angelic, because Carlie's intuition with that means the highest of the high, the protector of the highest light. And we're so driven by that energy that whatever it takes, allow me to die. I'll open myself up. I'll lose it all, right? We've lost it all. Give me cancer, mess up my shoulder. Give me the opportunity to heal myself so I can see the God within me, right? And that's when it all shifts, because you see the opportunity that you gave yourself. And that's what we do as these angelic frequencies online. We're giving everyone the opportunity to see our eyes, watch us connect. There's a reason why me and you did not get on the phone this weekend, and we knew it, right? Because we're like, nope, we're going to ignite our connection live, because we want people to see what it feels like to know home, to see yourself again.
We have
right?
So to me, I also see the leaders that are leading now up till this point, I don't believe are the leaders that we're going to see moving forward. And there's been a lot of distortion still being worked through, and still a lot of people putting people on pedestals. And so you're going to see a lot of the people that still didn't believe in themselves, that are starting to believe in themselves, that have worked through this process deeply, are going to rise as these new leaders. And when I say leader, I like the message that came to me was that we're going to be clear mirrors of inspiration and possibility. And that's what we're seeing in ourselves as we go through this right now. We're finally seeing the clear mirror. I'm seeing you and me and you. You're seeing vice
That's
versa.
where the crying comes in.
Yes.
It's too real.
Yes.
Every cell.
And that's our job.
In your body.
Our job, I think, is if we can move forward and keep doing that, this moment, the power people are feeling through this moment, whatever state they're in, the frequency will either plant the seed, they'll either see it, or they too will cry. And that's how we move forward as leaders. We just keep going into ourselves and keep illuminating more and more and more and more. And
Absolutely.
it's going to change the world through that.
Absolutely. I want to retouch on the leaders, but I need to run really quickly. Can you look at the comments for 30
Yeah,
seconds and
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
talk
yeah,
to
for sure. I,
anybody?
I love to yap.
Okay, give me 1 sec.
No
And then
problem.
we're going to
Um,
talk about the leadership.
yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
1 sec.
For sure. You both are inspiring to be a leader for future generations. Beautiful. Thank you, Nadu. High Journey, Awaken Heart. My beautiful sister, you've helped me open up the last little while, and I love you for that. I love all my friends are in here. All the leaders that are going to be helping the world. And I hope you all understand that. You're not here by chance. All my friends are here. Hi, Louise. I am Nurture for Life. And my new friend, Tivador. I have to do a live. I have to do a live or a podcast with him too. I was my friend Mike. Again, I mentioned to you before, Mike, and he carries a high frequency of our Archangel Michael,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been a guide for me for a while. And he turned me on to Tyler, and now I've stumbled on with you. And I mean, nothing happens by chance, right?
No, it's
It's such a
quick.
beautiful
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Absolutely. Carrie AB, she said, I just don't know what to do next, but I'm feeling so much. Let me just offer this while we're on this topic real quick. I am specifically, like you said, leading the leaders. I didn't know I was going to be doing that. It's a huge responsibility, okay? It was an initiation, and it was, oh shit. I got to make sure I am right in my truth as much as I can be, right? So with Carrie, what I do is I do one-on-one channeled sessions with people. I am bringing in the highest frequency that I can possibly bring, and I get your consent to be your mirror. And then I work with you, and we look, if we need to, we're going to look at the depths of your hell so we can see where you're looping. And then we bring in the heights of your heaven so we can bring a new perspective, and we bring it all right here.
Beautiful.
That's what I do. So anybody that wants to work with me, just direct message me and I will get you in for a session. I offer this right now because we're talking about leading the leaders, and you need a mirror. You have to be able to see yourself,
Yeah.
right? And so me and Ryan offer that. See me, see the angel that you are, right? But we can only do that because we know it, right? We've experienced it. That experience is that truth, and that's what the energy and frequency is.
Yeah, we both have very unique processes, and I love that about everybody. I love that. I just love the uniqueness and getting beyond that judgment and working through the ego and just seeing the uniqueness in everybody and how they bring this forward. But it was really simple how you positioned it. I think that in its simplest form, we allow them to see themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's all it is.
yeah,
We're
they feel
creating
it.
a space, but because we're human and we have an identity and we get to play, we've created something that's enjoyable for us and for them to get to experience who they are again, right? And if
Yeah,
that means that you have to take a course or whatever, however we do it on this earth realm is how we do it. And on a different planet, we can do it a different way, right? We don't know. We're just creating it. So we get to have fun with this experience. We get to, what are my gifts? What can I do? What does Carlie have that is a true expression of God that she can use? And I feel like that's why you're being asked to sing right now as well, because it's a gift that you were given. And if you look at it as, how can I serve God through this? How can I bring that frequency through me and realize that you're serving the people? It takes the fear away,
yeah,
right? Because you're afraid to be seen in that, but instead you're like, no, I'm serving you. And when you serve, this, it feels so solid because you take your ego out of it. No, you're serving God, right? So it's like, okay, I can scare myself a little bit because I am serving God. Let's put Carlie away for a minute and let's tap into that truth that we
it
are.
asked me to. I mean, I had lost, I built a company for about 20 years, and I had to go bankrupt, went to the forest to kill myself. Then in my next business, my business partner killed himself. And so I had a bit of a
Wow.
mess, right? The beginning of that major awakening part.
Mm,
And I think it's been it's been so interesting, you know, since that point and moving through all of these different things and eventually being told with no money and struggling to help my family and feeling that like, oh my God, I can't be the provider right now. And then being told that I need to do it for free, my services.
Mm-hmm.
And like for 2 years of doing that for nothing, but not for nothing because the exchange of energy was
Yep.
taking place, every single month I was provided for with exactly what I was needed. My
Yep.
family didn't struggle. My kids still played their stuff. I still ate every month. I didn't get to live lavishly,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I got to find the simplicity in life, the beauty of that simple. And again, I got to really use unconditional love as my driving force to serve instead of the money, which is what we have to get away from. Not that money's a problem, it's an energy. And I'm moving back into that cycle again because I've had to let go of the attachment that I had to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when people can start to see their attachments and we can learn to release them so that they can come back to be stripped down to nothing so that you can be everything, it's such a mind shift. And so yes, serving is great, and I think a lot of people do it and they just run. I'm healed and I'm going to go help everybody, and then they start charging for their services and then they get lost in it all again. And yes,
Yeah.
that's what you're seeing now is the distortions.
Yeah.
But I'm quite capable of serving for the rest of my life for nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that I'll always be provided for. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to come the ways that I expect it to come. And I think that there's something really powerful in that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just making sure unconditional love is the driving force in everything you choose to do
Mm-hmm.
for you and for who you're serving.
Absolutely. And we all have different angles and perspectives of why that happens. So for me specifically, so you were told to do it donation based. My husband did the same thing. He was told donation based because he does energy work and a lot of things. And he always made way more by doing that. You know, one person couldn't and do very much, and then another person makes up for it 10 times, right?
Yeah.
It's that energetic currency. For me, I literally do this specifically for people to choose themselves. So what I do
Yeah.
is I charge $1 a minute. I'm not making a lot of money. It takes me 2 hours to do their full session. I do an hour with them and then I spend an hour writing their report. But I charge them $60 for 60 minutes and I send them an invoice ahead of time. When I do that, the second that they pay that, I said, you already started. You already chose yourself.
Yeah.
You chose to find the money. Not, I said, it's not about me needing $60, okay? It's about you saying, you know what? I'm worth it. I'm going to pay to see myself. It's the choice. It's just the choice. Right. And so that's what it is. And I love that because God helped me see that. And so many people will say, well, I don't know if I have, the money to do it right now. And I say, okay, well, when you're ready to see yourself, you will have the money, right? I said, I would do it for you for free. This is about you finding that energy within you and choosing yourself, right? It's the first
And
action.
who are you choosing at the same time, right? By choosing that way to do that,
Mm-hmm.
you're also choosing you. That was came to me a month or two. Whenever I started charging for my services again,
Mm-hmm.
I had the courage enough to then charge. And even though it's been interesting because it all faded away over the last month, so I've been guided away from all of that, but it was something I had to choose me in that moment,
Yep.
right? And there's really nobody else here if I really want to break it down,
Yeah.
right? So it's there's a saying by the Knights Templar, and I say this a lot too, but it's be prepared to die for your truth. And I don't think you can fully understand it until you go through a lot of this process and understand the mirror. And the more you speak that truth, the more you engage and come out of the hiding and start to see yourself. And the reflection is constantly going to mirror back to you who you truly are. And so even in this moment, we've got a really clear picture of a level of awareness of who we are. And we've embodied another level of that. And so we may know we're God, and we may have embodied the angelic level of awareness,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to keep speaking our truth so that we can get the reflection of who we truly are and embody that completely.
Right.
So the more we come out of it, the more we step out. If you go back to my Instagram at the beginning, oh my God, was I scared to do this? Well, I was so scared to speak and be seen.
Yeah.
And my eyes are like this. I look like I'm dying. I'm saying crazy
Me
shit.
too.
And and now you can't stop me from talking,
Yeah.
right? And the
Yeah.
next stage is the singing, and then the frequency just becomes that more powerful. My truth becomes that much more louder, and I get to see myself that much more clearly.
Absolutely. And yeah, it is that it's being able to tap into that angelic frequency through an intention because we've experienced it. So therefore it's in our field. I can still choose to be in a different frequency at all times, but it's there so I can pull it
Yeah.
in, right? And I know just through this, the consciousness of the I am. So there's, the 0 point is the what am I? And then you have dimensions that are built on top of that. And then what we're trying to get to is the 9D, I am it all. And so with the awareness, we can say I am it all and have a certain level of awareness that other people maybe don't have right now, but we still only have so many angles to that awareness. When we are fully embodied in I am God, I am it all, that's when those superpowers come in. Because if I am the earth, if I am the elements, then I can shift them. And I've seen this, I've been witnessed in this. The last massive shift that I had, I'm mainly earth energy and air energy. The last massive shift that I had to have witnesses because it doesn't matter unless it's seen. And when I shifted, I caused a 4.4 earthquake in Utah.
I love it.
And everyone around me felt it except for me. I can't feel the earthquake because I am the earthquake.
Ah, I
Okay.
love that.
So what happened was is everyone was running out of the house. My sisters were running out, my mom, everyone's in front of me, and they all went, and I looked at them and I'm like, what? And they're like, didn't you feel that? And I was like, no. And they were witnessing me as I shifted into another level of awareness. They said, Carlie, an earthquake just happened. And then Becca, my best friend, just so happened to be there that night at my mom's, met my mom for the first time, right? And
Yeah.
she grabbed me and said, Carlie, you caused that shift. She said, you shift, it shifts. It is you, right? Of course, it would be the elements. That's our superpowers. I
Yeah.
can literally move hurricanes away from my home. I've done it multiple times because I am connected to air. I am Aquarius and Gemini and Capricorn. It doesn't matter if we're missing a zodiac sign. It doesn't matter if it's all distorted. If you believe that you're connected to specific elements and you work with them, you're creating it right then and there.
Yes.
I don't care if there's a missing zodiac sign. It doesn't matter, right? It's what you choose to create with. And
Yeah.
of
For me,
course, it would be the elements, right? And that would be the superpowers to move water and air bend and earth bend. But you can only do that when you shift within. The ego can't do it. But when it shifts within, it's almost out of your control. So I imagine when we step into our superpowers and really be able to use the elements, it can only be when we are absolutely aware of how to do it. Otherwise, we will cause destruction,
yeah,
right?
I love that you just brought this up. I had a friend that's in India, and she's got a video, and there's clouds around the moon, and she's creating an energy with her hand, or however you want to perceive that. The hand was being directed, and the cloud opened up a perfect hole at the point where she was, and it just kept opening and opening and opening, and then the lightning, as she went, boom, and the lightning came through. I've always been amazed by that. And the other day, a friend of mine said she made something about the Ghostbusters movie, the new one, and I said, "Oh, the last one brought a lot of awareness to me. There was a lot of signs and symbols for me. I guess I got to watch that one now." And I watch it, and it was a lot had to do with this fire starter gentleman. And then after that, I kept getting messages about fire starter, fire starter, fire starter, and even the movie the fire starter came up. And I'm a double fire. So I'm a Aries and Sagittarius, and now you're speaking about this, and I'm like, I guess I gotta start working with that element a bit more, and
Yeah, my husband is fire too. And after I realized that I had shifted the earth and then realized that I moved a hurricane away, and when I do shows, if it starts raining, I tap into my Merkaba and I say, I'm not going to be experiencing rain right now, but I have to be
yeah,
very connected and understand that I am moving it. If I'm like, we'll see if my power works, we'll see, then it's going to be like, and your power don't work because you're confused. So we're confused, right?
I do that
And
with the
so
sun. The
right.
same
And
same
so
same thing with the sun. If
he's
it's cloudy
fire
out,
as
I
well.
want the sun.
And I told him exactly what you just said. I said, "Wait a minute. You are fire." So what exactly what you were saying, and I was like, "So what would you be doing?" And then you said lightning too, and I thought about that with him. I was like, "Oh, lightning, fire bending, like there's so many
Yeah,
volcanic
I never made the connection before. I never made
uh-huh.
the connection between what I was doing with the sun until right now with the fire.
Yeah.
The lady I've just met is whatever you want to call that, twin soul, twin flame, whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's a good mirror.
Yeah.
But she's an earth sign, and earth and fire make what? Volcanoes, right?
Mhm.
So it's just funny that you're saying that right now with the volcano. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have so much power within
So
us,
much. And
and
it,
it's
it,
just beginning.
it
Just beginning. I mean, even
yeah.
I got messages a year ago about when that flash happens and the ability to, jump 10 feet and whatever these ideas that from the ego, kind of hearing those messages. But we have so much power. We create
Yeah.
worlds inside from the power,
Yeah.
and you hear that enough times, but you kind of disregard it,
Yeah.
like it's like a mythical saying, but it's not.
You have to
And we're
choose
gonna
it
we're gonna show
though.
them.
Yeah, because you have to choose it. You have to choose it. Now, the scariest part for the leaders that are leading the leaders into their superpowers will be being witnessed by saying, I am going to shift the earth in front of
Mm,
you. Okay,
mm,
that power is
mm.
very scary because there's a doubt. Can I do this?
Yeah.
Well, the second you say, can I? Like I can feel it right now. Like when we get to that point where spirit says, "Okay, you guys are going to have to show your superpowers and you're going to have to really believe it cuz you're going to be witnessed." Right? That is a whole nother level of death and rebirth right there to be.
It's like the same time when you first, like when I first got into healing, and I think I did the master Reiki stuff, and then I did quantum healing. And the first woman I went to, she had a problem with her knee, and I was in my head the whole time. But she had never experienced anything really spiritually, and then she had these crazy visions in her third eye. So I got a little confirmation, a little taste that there was something happening. And the next time I did it, my ex-wife was burping and yawning and having all of this repetitive and more confirmation.
Mhm.
And then you actually start doing the work, you start believing in yourself. And I was super afraid to do distance healing and from a picture. And this woman in Africa called me. She had from Nigeria, and she had malaria. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I put the picture, and I focused all the intention of love, sending that energy. Woke up the next morning, no malaria. And so it's kind of a process that you need to work on. I've got a friend right now, he's a young 17-year-old kid, and he moves tinfoil. That's how he was starting with telekinesis. And then he's outside with the air, and he's moving the windmills, and everyone's saying it's fake. This isn't right. So I call him up, and I was like, hey, how do you do that? And he said, look, go stand against a wall and visualize your heart beaming light against that wall. And I went up against the wall, and it moved me backwards. And it wasn't as powerful, like bam, but it was enough that I was like, I got the taste. Kind of like when you rub your hands for the first time and you feel that ball of energy in between your hands.
Mhm.
So I think if you got to kind of practice yourself and kind of dive into it to kind of find that belief, like you've done, and like you felt that earthquake, that sign, and now you have the ability of that confirmation. Now you can go out and work with that element and those elements, and
Right.
so I think it's a work in progress a little
Yeah.
bit, but
Well,
it's coming,
and
and I think that's the knowing that
mhm.
once we start doing that kind of stuff, that's when that flash happens
Mhm.
through us, right?
We
Because
have
we'll
to be
feel it.
witnessed.
Yeah.
Have to be. The story of Jesus Christ, he had disciples. He had to have direct witnesses. so they could see and he could see, right?
Because in
And
his
so
hometown, I'm not a Bible guy in this
Mhm,
lifetime, anyways. But I remember hearing a story about his power is not really working in his hometown,
mhm.
where he had to move outside of his hometown to kind of,
They had created too much judgment with the mirror.
yeah,
If you judge the mirror, you can't see yourself. And so the whole point is fresh new mirrors, right? This is why people in our experience fall off and new ones come in, because our witnesses have to be different. If my people that have witnessed Carlie not in her enlightened state and saw me as an alcoholic and a piece of shit for a long time, they couldn't see my enlightened state because they're attached to the identity of my old version, right?
yeah.
So I have to have new mirrors so I can see myself. Otherwise, I'm going to be stuck in the past, or I'm going to see a present moment with imaginative future timelines based off of who my mirrors are. And that's why these new people are coming to us. That's why you're in front of me right now and not an old friend from 10 years ago,
Yeah.
because they can't see this version of me. They can choose to. I have best friends that can, but it's that the people being attached to the identity of your old version. And I'm hearing about your ex-wife and your child, and I'm getting all of that right now.
Yeah.
It's them, their attachment to your old version. So therefore you have to allow them to die in your mind, because that old version of you cannot exist in your field anymore.
I'm going to Colombia in 3 days for my brother's wedding. And my mother brought me a ticket to fly out and bought me a suit. I had nothing to get there. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why am I going there? And my friend wrote me a few days ago, and she said that she's being guided to go back and meet her family and kind of do her goodbyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's exactly the last little piece here is going and saying goodbye to my parents and my brother, and but it's just that aspect of me that needs to kind of move on through this
And it doesn't
process.
mean that they are going anywhere.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
your own thing. It's you releasing them
Yeah,
so they can shift. When you shift, they shift. But you can
yeah.
only do that by completely releasing them from your experience. And then when they come back around, if they do, but you won't care because the attachment isn't there anymore, then it'll become a mirror call, right?
I'll tell you, there's a two stories. I've shared this a bit too, but I'm staring at my desk, and there's my young son and my older son in a picture, and it just hits me. I was like, oh my God. And I realized that my oldest son and I were like two peas in a pod, and my youngest son and I were like oil and water. And I realized that my youngest son was everything I hated about
Mm-hmm.
myself, and my oldest son was everything I loved about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, what do I got to do here? Okay, I got to find those pieces and love those pieces again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to start to look at him and not look to the past and the judgment and all these things of how he was, but just see him right now as this beautiful little boy.
Yep.
And he literally changed before my eyes, a
Mm-hmm.
completely different
Yep.
person. I thought, well, if I can do this with him, I can do this with my
Yep.
mother. And my mother and I had a tumultuous relationship. I mean, lots of craziness.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, I'm not going to look at her and think it's only now.
Yep.
And as I started to love that version of myself and only see the light in her eyes, again, I'm 47. So in my later years, having my mother pay for my ticket to come to Italy and then pay for her to come again to Italy, and the relationship was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I changed the projection
Yeah.
that is her, right?
Yeah.
And when
Yep.
people can actually feel that and see that, now you can start to see where the real work is needed.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of go back to that Jesus story quickly, it was I had a moment where it showed me like in the most pain I've ever been in, and part of it was on the cross, and I realized that there was what we thought as Yeshua, that he fully knew who he was and embodied that while he walked the earth. And what I got was that he didn't until he was in that moment on the cross. And otherwise, the reflection that would have been mirrored back to him wouldn't have been one of severe judgment at
Yeah.
times, wouldn't have been one of the pain that he was being put through.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things, again, were what was coming from inside. And he knew who he was when he was on the cross in that pain. And that's when he went to the 0 point
Mm-hmm.
to escape the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he knew,
Yeah.
oh my God, and boom, and the
Wow.
ascension happens. I mean, that's what was shown to me. So, I
Right.
mean, everybody has a different
I
perspective,
feel
but
that.
it just gives you
Absolutely.
some idea about the mirror.
Right. Absolutely. Our live might shut off because it's
I
literally been an hour.
know, I
That's
know.
how quick that went. So we're gonna have to do another one like in a few
Anytime you
days or
want,
something. Yeah,
anytime.
because our energy, it's too quick. So it's, yeah,
I need to
but
go
I
outside and
appreciate,
ground right now too.
yeah. Well, I thank you so much for everything, and I will repost this on YouTube and it'll be on Instagram, so the replay will be available. And
Beautiful.
thank you everyone who has been on here. We will do this again many, many times because our energy is just very quick. So it goes by very quick. It's like a little portal, you know?
I love you. I love you so much.
Thank you. I love you so much.
No
And I will
problem.
talk to you very
For
soon.
sure. Have a beautiful day. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
You as well. Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.